Okay, so we are back here. What I want to do is continue with some edit poly concepts. We're going to probably pop off some of these pieces and get them set up for a different kind of structure. Just makes things a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner. I like to approach making objects in a way that relates to how they're actually constructed in the real world. It adds a little bit more realism to the construction. It allows you to deconstruct it in a realistic way, such as walls and just and things of that nature. My cat's trying to get on my lap. So let's start off with some simple procedures. I'm just going back into the edit poly. I've turned off the test tube just so I can take a look at what I want to do. I want to add some geometry here to kind of create the point here. And I'm probably going to actually go ahead and pop off the blade and pop off the guard, and that includes right here, this little piece here. And then I'm going to probably redo the handle a little bit differently, but I like being able to keep a lot of what's already there, so I have that as a reference. We're going to use probably a coin type medallion sort of pommel for our weapon. That's right there. That's actually is a sphere, it looks like. If it's a sphere, then we'll go with the reference image. And that's a sphere, so we'll just use a sphere, but we'll actually rebuild our blade, our guard to match this, and then we'll add the actual leather wrap here and start the pointy and business end a little bit higher up. So we're going to use our reference and follow it a little bit closer. So let's move up some things here. And what I like to do, let's go ahead and kind of make this a little smaller. And while I work, I'll gab about my mentality of modeling. So I've got this here. And so what I want to do as a modeler is actually look at what the object is. Go ahead and get it to follow this shape here. I'm looking at the details of how we made it. I know that from experience watching just some simple black smithing shows that the blade is going to probably extend pretty much almost down to the middle of the handle, and the handle will be attached to it, and the guard and the handle, or the guard is basically is helping stay attached to the handle. Everything kind of locks into place with this, with the pommel being usually screwed up on the bottom. Like a nut and bolt type scenario. And this is actually kind of this will be the counterweight to help balance the rest of this of the sword, so that it almost moves effortlessly. We'll go ahead and move this back down, and we got a little bit of a scale issue, which I did to when I wasn't paying attention to my reference. Now, when I'm looking at reference, one of the things that's important, first off, is to have reference. I can't stress that enough. There's so many students who do not actually create enough reference for their project, and in doing so, it creates even more problems down the road. You lose touch of what it is that you're after. I'm going to follow the shape here. And this allows maintaining an awareness of what I'm after is real important. Because when you're working with people, sometimes you have to select everything. It's a little bug in Max. I don't know what's going on here. It's like my selection is not working. It's really annoying. Alright, there we go. And so now, going back to this, you got to have reference to keep an idea of what you're after. A lot of times you're going to be working with a very specific set of style guides, and you need to maintain that so that the rest of the project has a consistency about it. And when that consistency is broken, the world looks, the illusion and the immersion can break down real fast. I'm going to delete that, and now what I have here is a hole in my mesh, and that's a perfect time to show you a border. Border is just an open set of edges. For some reason my selection tool's acting weird. I think my computer will need a restart. It's not unusual. So I'm going to hold shift while I'm in border mode, and then using the move tool, and I'm just going to create new geometry here. It's just the same as using the bevel or extrude, except now I'm just doing it using the transform tools instead of going into the actual polygon tools. getting all this lined up. And that allows me to move a little faster. So I'll go back into border. What's going on? There we go. Hold shift. And so I want to kind of start getting this dip. So I'll hold shift and create new geometry and move that one. Not hold shift. Now hold shift again. And then I'm going to hold shift and scale and Z. Come here, hold shift. I may scale that up a little bit. And hello kitty. Yes. All right, cool. And now I'm going to hold shift and just scale it a little bit. And this will help add some roundness to cap it all off. And then use the cap tool. And now I have this whole thing right here. Now, here's where I kind of can run into some issues is that I've got, what I need to do is actually pop this off. And I'm going to detach it. When I say pop off, I mean basically detach all these faces. I'm going to leave it inside the edit poly. So it's going to be popped off as a sub object. So what I'm going to do here is just hit the detach button. And it gives me this pop-up. If I leave it as default, it's going to pop off as a new object and leave the edit poly, which makes it a separate object. Let me hit OK so you can see what I'm talking about. So now I have one object and two objects. Now this is no longer in the symmetry because it's separate. So let's undo that. Undo, 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 undo. There we go. Go back into there. Yeah, it's off. Go ahead and hit the polygon button. You should have this all selected. Go back to the detach, and this time I'm going to detach it as an element. Now the naming comes off because it's inside the Claymore object. So I'm going to hit OK. Now I can slide this off. This will tell me that this is detached, and I need to actually re-weld it, which we will get into later. If I go ahead and turn on the test tube so you can see what's going upstairs. Now you know that the actual object is still part of it, and so it's two contiguous objects, but it's one complete total polygon object or polygonal object. So let's go back into there, turn off test tube. And what I want to do, since I have this broken off, I can do two things. One, I can just grab these polygons. I hope. We'll try. It's driving me crazy. This is so weird. Alright, so I grabbed those polygons. I'm going to delete them because it actually will do me two things. One, I'm going to select my element right there, which is 5 on the keyboard. Slide this up. And that just separates the elements a little bit, and this helps me if I have to close the project, which I think I'm going to do when I restart my computer. I'll see exactly where I'm at. So here I have my guard, my blade, and my handle. Next will be the pommel. We'll get into that later because it's a more complex object, being a sphere, and I want to get and go back into segmenting and talk about that again. So let's go ahead and just finish up this little guard bit. And so what I'm going to do is select the border, and I'm going to hold shift and just create this real quick. And this will go about halfway. When we add the symmetry, it'll clean up a lot of what happens here along the seam. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But now that I have this set up right here, I'm going to go ahead and go into my polygon edges. My selection is acting real funky. I have a Surface Pro 2. And a lot of times what happens is my keyboard stops functioning when I've got a lot of apps going on. And so when my computer gets tired, essentially the keyboard refuses to work. So we'll come back to this and finish this from where we're at. All right, we'll be back.